No matter what the situation is, nothing is more important than your CX. There's nothing better than the experience at retail. Using technology to enhance that, that's the win-win.
People invest too much inside the store, but they don't take their storefront seriously enough.
If you're not there talking to them, getting their story, then you're not really developing a relationship. You're just treating them like a client.
Retail is one word, detail. And if you're selling a diamond and you give them a Costco water versus a Fiji water, you're setting the tone for what the experience is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today, we are at the Retail Innovation, Improving the In-Store Experience. I'm Jennifer Shaheen, Chief Digital Officer at Hill & Co. and founder of Technology Therapy Group, and I am excited to be moderating today's JCK talk. Today I'm joined by three distinguished gentlemen: Stephen Alexander of Luxsurance, Daniel Black of Glass Media, and Andy Martin of Moonlight Mobile. Before we dive into questions, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to share a little about themselves and their business.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm Stephen from Luxsurance. I'll start off with, today is August 29th, 2021, and 12 years ago I married my wife today, so it's a special day. Yeah. So 12 years you should sit with me. Thank you, thank you. She also inspired me to leave my company. I was at a company called Takori. I'm sure you've all heard of it, in bridal. And before that I worked for YSL under the Gucci umbrella, and I love retail. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I love it. Every day you open up and it's a party and you don't know what's coming, and you guys get to guide them through that. So with that, I started a company called Luxsurance. And what Luxsurance is, it's luxury insurance, and we want to make sure that after someone purchases a ring or a watch from your jewelry store, that we take that and make sure that they're covered. Nothing's more important than your CX. And we want to make sure after that that we can give you the tools to make it better. So I've been to over 500 retail stores, and I want to be able to hopefully throw some stuff at you that will inspire you to go back home and kind of remap what you're doing with your CX. And I can tell you that these gentlemen and Jen are incredible too. So let's have a great time. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Just because I'm a technology therapist, does everybody know what CX stands for? Customer experience. There you go.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
UX is user experience.
I am the educator on the panel, so I get that. So, Daniel.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Daniel Black from Glass Media. We're based in Dallas, Texas. I founded this company about 7 years ago, and we really focus on custom digital signage for retailers. I work with the majority of the Fortune 500, mall-based retailers, inline stores, standalone stores. I do a lot of pop-up experiences now, so for us, I really started the company because I looked at digital signage and it was quite stale and antiquated. Most retailers were building video walls, kiosks, things that don't really look aesthetically pleasing. And so we kind of took it to the next level, and everything we do is really like a one-off. It's bespoke and it's on brand. So looking forward to being part of the panel this morning.
Love that. And we all know in jewelry we need bespoke. Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Martin of Moonlight Mobile, and we're developers of the Wishlist app. So my background was actually in game development. I spent several years working for a few different game development companies out of Los Angeles, and my true passion was always startups. I always wanted to start a business. I wanted to help startups. I wanted people's businesses to thrive. So I started my own business, of course, and moved back to my home state of Arkansas to make the money go a little further. And I was building all kinds of things for multiple people, but my dream was to build my own thing. And at one point, I talked to my sister-in-law. She told me about these problems that they had in their jewelry store, and she just started listing them off. And one of them was paper wish lists. And she said, "You're an app developer. Couldn't these be online or something?" And I had just spent 5 months developing an app that was great, but didn't solve the problem I was trying to solve. And I immediately saw all the wheels turn and thought, oh, I could solve this problem for you. And so that was 5 years ago. We've been in their store for 5 years, kind of in a beta. And this is our first public launch where we're actually telling other people about our app. So I'm excited to be here. Again, excited to help you guys learn a little more about how tech can help your stores.
Great, thank you so much. And solving a problem is often why many of us go into business. So as I mentioned, I'm Jennifer Shaheen, Chief Digital Officer of Hill & Co., and we're a team of experts helping companies in the diamond, gemstone, and fine jewelry space accelerate growth. My personal passion has been empowering growing businesses to use today's digital tools to succeed and thrive in a digital economy. In-store experiences really go hand in hand with retail innovation. In 2019, I was privileged enough to give a talk here at JCK on disruption in retail. And during that talk, I talked about smart mirrors. We were just talking about this prior to. Interactive displays where people can build their own jewelry and actually play, which is one of the greatest things that you can do, is getting people in your store to engage. So today really is a close to my heart conversation. So let's start with a question for all of you. What retail innovation improves a retailer's ability to create stories and connect with their customers? So let's start with you, Stephen.
Thanks, Jen. First and foremost, when someone enters your store, they've entered a maze. Let's be realistic. And you're going to guide them through this maze so that at the end, they walk out and say, that was amazing. But is there a way that we can tell their story? I don't believe in salespeople. I believe you're trusted advisors. And as trusted advisors, you give advice that they can trust. If you think of Julia Roberts in Pretty Women, when she won the Oscar, she looked back. She didn't win for Pretty Woman, but she looked back for Gary Marshall, who was her director, because he directed her through the whole process. As a trusted advisor, through that customer experience, you're doing that. You're guiding them through to make them the star of the story. Now, using technology to enhance that is where it can come into play. All I can say is this much. If I was to stand outside your store with one, you know those signs that I say good morning to everyone, ask you a question, need help? If I was to stand outside your store and say, okay, cool, here's a $25 gift card for Starbucks. I just have two simple questions. If you were to rate that experience out of 10, what would you give it? And would you refer them? 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. That's what it's all about. It's all about after the effect. So I started this company, Luxsurance, because 81% of all people don't insure their jewelry. My wife didn't insure her jewelry. 12 years ago when I asked her to marry me, that ring wasn't insured. And it drives me crazy, because if something happens afterwards, they're gonna walk back into your store and you're gonna have a really tough situation. 50% of all people can't replace that ring. So we don't want you to be in that situation. And as trusted advisors, by giving them the situation so that they'll be a hero and you'll be a hero, that's our goal. And I think it's so important to think every process, every person that walks through the store is entered the maze, and you want to guide them out so that they will say that was amazing, and you'll get a 10 for energy and a 10 for experience. And that's it.
Daniel, why don't you also talk us through retail innovation stories with the signage side of things?
Yeah, so I think for most retailers, they really underutilize their storefront, right? It's all about first impressions matter. How do you modernize your brand image, tell a compelling brand story? So I think for us, it's really about creating that story at the storefront, where vehicles, pedestrians, people that are coming into your store really have that good first impression that breeds excitement, tells a little bit about your brand. I think a lot of times people invest too much inside the store, but they don't take their storefront seriously enough. So that's really what we do with a lot of retailers. We help them tell that story before someone's even inside your store, and we find that really helps.
Excellent. How about you? Tell us a little bit more about some retail innovation in store from a game side.
Sure. Yeah, so when someone walks in your store, you see another customer. Maybe they're getting married. For them, they're not another customer. This is the most important thing that's ever happened in their life. If you're not there talking to them and getting their story, then you're not really developing a relationship. You're just treating them like a client. So I think it's extremely important to listen to them. And one of the things that's been really great about the Wishlist app helping this is you go around the store, and instead of taking a picture of the jewelry, oftentimes we have them take a picture of the jewelry on the person. And so you have the ability to share it to their loved ones, and you can say, don't these earrings look great on your wife? And when their significant other maybe comes in to buy them a gift for their anniversary or whatever, They're able to see the story and journey that their loved one had in the store, all of the things they tried on and they loved, and then pick the one that kind of resonates the best with them and their relationship. And it's so much more meaningful when you know, when the customer walks in and you can immediately look them up and say, oh, your favorite color's orange. We just got in a new orange, you know, insert name here. And it's so much more meaningful. All of a sudden, you're a friend, you become a trusted advisor. I really like that term that he used. And I don't know, it used to be they would come in and say, oh, I looked at this beautiful ring, and someone wrote it down, and the person said, oh, great, well, who did you work with? Maybe it's somewhere in the back desk, but it only takes about 5 seconds for the customer to grow impatient. And immediately all of the giddiness they had going in to get the ring that they'd looked at with someone who they thought they could trust, if that goes away, all of a sudden they start thinking about the negatives. This ring's expensive. I don't think there's as much gold in this band as I really wanted. Maybe this diamond is a little smaller. You have to keep the story going. You have to build on the experience they had before. So to talk to gamification, being able to build on the experience they had the last time in the store, every time they're in the store, means that every time they enter, it's amazing.
Can I add to that if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
The reality is everyone has a doctor, everyone has a dentist, everyone has a jeweler. And I circle back to Julia Roberts winning the Oscar. She went back to James Brooks when she did Pretty Women. You guys are there to do the most important thing, is to make sure if he's buying her a ring that he doesn't mess up. And when he relates back to his jeweler. And when it comes to referring, it's so funny because if you guys, I live in Los Angeles, and you say, hey, what's a great steak place? I'm gonna go, oh, you gotta go to Mastro's. You're gonna walk up the stairs, there's a really cheesy piano player, he's playing Billy Joel and it's off key, and you're like, why is he playing it? But you're gonna take a spoon, you're gonna cut into the steak with a spoon. And you're gonna be like, what? And then you're gonna go, and you're gonna walk in, you're gonna say, okay, why did he tell me to come here? And then when you walk through the process, you're going to be so grateful that I just told you that. And I'm telling you, it is really a good steak. But same thing happens is when they refer to you as their jeweler and they send you there, because 90% of all referrals buy. You can market like crazy, but 90% of all referrals buy. And I think that's so important. Now, luckily with our digital vault, which hopefully I'll get to share with you, we have a one-button business card referral thing that's really cool. But anyways, aside from that, I'll go back to this.
All right. Technology was separated from marketing, and as a marketing technology person, that is such a mistake.
Don't invest in a digital solution that's just stuck on a wall for 5 years.
It's all about simplicity. Think of the best possible solution, then think of the seamless solution, the one that doesn't even have to be thought about. If you can do that for your user experience, that's the ticket.
Hi, El Hill here. Do you want to learn how to get on the phone with any buyer that you want to work with without an introduction or a referral? Click to get them downloadable that we've made for you that you can start using right away and will be really useful for your business and growing your revenue.
According to a Forrester study, 69% of U.S. consumers shop more with brands or stores that offer consistent experiences in their store as they do online. And sometimes I have found that so many stores are investing so much in 360 videos and different things to engage us while we're out of the store, but then I walk in the store and I'm not getting that same experience. And so I think we should talk a little bit about that, because I think that's important is you spend all this time building up the acquisition to get them from awareness to consideration coming in. So let's start with you, Daniel. How is visual merchandising increasing this in-store consumer experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. So historically, I guess there were kind of two silos within retail. There was the IT department and the marketing on the e-commerce side. And then you have your store designers and visual merchandisers, who really are our customers. And the issue is technology used to be a plug-and-play solution where they weren't empowered to really take advantage of it, right? So what we're doing now is we're doing a lot more modular display technology where we empower people on site, could be the store manager, the associate, to planogram, to move the technology from one window to the next, to move it inside the store, and really give them the ability through the cloud to change the content or have our graphic design team help them. And I think that's the big key is don't invest in a digital solution that's just stuck on a wall for 5 years. It's going to be really hard to bring that to life and differentiate your store experience. So I think thinking about modularity and the ability to kind of repurpose things within the store is really, really important.
And I think it's really important too, is if you have that brand image, all your neighbors have that brand image too. So going to the direction of where Daniel's company is, and if you go down to the retail and tech, it's so cool. You just be different than everybody else. And that's, I think, so important to making your store unique.
It's very true. And interestingly enough, when we were collaborating before today, we were talking about now how some screens even have sentiment tracking. So sentiment tracking watches your eyes and your face. And really, this new technology can give you feedback of, you know, what someone's resonating with as they're looking at that digital screen after hours, when they're walking by your store, or when they're not talking to the salesperson and they're browsing in the store. So some really amazing new technologies that are now, and you also said something else that I think is important, which is technology was separated from marketing. And as a marketing technology person, that is such a mistake. I think so much of them have to be brought together to collaborate. You look like you want to add something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, thinking about how we can better leverage our smartphones as an extension of the display is important too. So we do a lot of activations in Windows where we're leveraging dynamic QR codes, we're leveraging SMS triggers, text diamond to 445. You can have a powerful call to action, and whether your business is open or closed, someone can take that on their smartphone and take it with them, and they might be a repeat customer because of it.
And I think it's so important to remember that technology isn't going to steal the experience at retail. It bridges you closer, and there's nothing better than the experience at retail. Nothing. I don't care what anyone says. I love people and that aspect of that story, but using technology to enhance that, that's the win-win.
It's funny that you brought this up, and I want to go to you next because, Andy, so many people, by the way, after we could get out of our homes, we all were suffering from, we needed our retail therapy. It was a very big thing. And 72% of people actually belong to a loyalty program in this country. I don't know if everybody knows that. So let's talk a little bit about things from your perspective. How can you create lifelong relationships with digital application in stores?
Yeah, I think that the goal with every customer should be to build a lifelong relationship with them. Not that many people really change their cities. They stay there for at least 10, 20 years. That's a long time to have someone coming back to your store. Some people kind of want the experience to stay the same the whole 20 years, and other people, they really want to be at the store that's at the forefront of innovation. And I think it's best to stay in that realm, because when you're the one at the forefront of innovation, you become kind of a destination. Like, it's not just going to the jewelry store, you're going to the jewelry store. You know what I mean? It's so much different, so much more impactful. And I think that by having the customer relationship grow, it makes it more impactful. Now their daughter is, she was 8 years old the first time she came in their store. Now she's 20, she's getting married. You're helping this person buy the ring after you helped maybe someone else in their family buy the ring. I definitely agree with what he said about referrals. I'm completely dependent upon referrals for almost everything that I do. If I'm gonna shop somewhere or do something, I'll probably have analysis paralysis and never do it. But if someone finally says, I went so-and-so, they were at the forefront of technology, I'd highly recommend you go there. Maybe talk to Ken or whoever when you get there. That's going to get me to go. And so I think that leveraging that and being able to retain, especially the past history of what people have done, is also important. One thing we're trying to do is build kind of a digital jewelry box. So after you buy it, I know he talked about his digital vault, but it's great for people to be able to see digitally what they have in their room or in their place, be able to say, oh, it has been 3 years since I had my prong checked. And then maybe the stores are able to say, hey, you should come back in. It's been 3 years since you've had your prongs checked. Opportunity to maybe offer them some insurance on the item too, because I assume as an item gets older, it's probably more likely.
Just a little pressure there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because
I'd like you to chime in with what you had an idea on a second ago.
On the what?
Oh, I saw you raise the mic with
Oh, I was just going to say, this is all great, but I hate to be the person to put it forward. I ran 15 stores for Gucci, and they would come with these incredible ideas, and then they'd say, do it. And we'd be like, okay, how do you expect us to do this? I'm going to tell you 3 letters. And if you're going to take anything back, and I'm going to tell you, these guys are so brilliant, Jen's wonderful, and I am brilliant because I married that girl with the camera in the back right there, Jasmine, and she's still the only girl in the room, even in this huge place, just for the record. I love you. Happy anniversary. Is rad. Rad. We all want to be rad. Now, when I ran my stores, we held each other accountable. And when I say rad breaks down to reliable, accountable, and dependable. And no matter what the situation is, nothing is more important than your CX. And if the default is, let's just call it Jennifer Jewelers. Whatever the situation is, are we thinking of the CX for Jennifer Jewelers? Because that's the most important default. And if you can hold each other reliable, accountable, and dependable in everything that you do, from the moment they walk in and smile, what a concept, let's smile, even with a mask, smiling with your eyes. And if they don't come around the fence with that bag and walk them halfway through the door, we call each other out on it. So whatever we're talking about, it's the key to us to go home and do it. I hate to say it. I feel like it's my trainer telling me not to eat carbs, but the truth of the matter is if we don't do it and we don't hold each other accountable, we can have all the greatest ideas in the world, but if we can't execute it, that's the challenge.
I think Daniel hinted at that earlier when he mentioned the modularity of the signs. Imagine just setting something up one time and it's just going to sit there. Whatever the messaging is, it's old. I mean, yesterday's yesterday, right? So you really always need to evaluate everything from the customer and the new customer's perspective. I mean, who just walked in your store for the first time? Yeah, you've sold the best for the past 10 years. They don't know that. They don't care necessarily. You have to make them care and want to care. So I really liked what you mentioned about keeping your things current. I mean, anything from yesterday is kind of already stagnant.
Do you want to add anything to that, Daniel?
Sure, I can just say one more thing. When you think about visual solutions within your retail store, we're doing a lot more digital decor, digital art, things, that are not necessarily promotional, but really do enhance the customer experience. And we do a lot of things for Neiman Marcus, for instance, that when people walk in, they're really wowed by it, and they describe it as elegant, beautiful. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind is not everything has to be a sales tool. Customer experience can also be the wow factor. It can be something that's more elegant. So keep that in mind too.
I really appreciate that you say that, and we work with social responsibility side, and we have a store that I talked to out west, and they go to Africa to buy gemstones, and so instead of having a display of this is the brand they carry, they have elephants and the beautiful videos they took themselves while they were there, so they can tell a story about the gemstones that they saw firsthand, and it pulls the customer in. So I really appreciate that you said not only to use your displays as a way to say, here, this is the brand we carry, or this is the message that we're having, or this is the sale we're offering. It's also an opportunity for you all to tell stories and experiences and build relationships.
And I think that they're going to be so passionate about the experience that they got from your store. Like I just told you about Mastro's. They're going to want to tell you about your jeweler. Like it gets to a point, seriously, where you have to go to Jen Jewelers. I'm like passionately telling you this because I don't want you to screw it up. And they did it so well for me. But I also want to tell you too, it's not about the sale. It's about after the sale. It's like, I always used to say to my stores, my trusted advisors, is you made a sale, now what? What now happens? And if something does happen, this is where I insert a little bit of what I do for a living, just so you know, here it's coming. But if something happens to their ring and you didn't offer them insurance, it's on you. That's the way I look at it, because I didn't know. If my doctor tells me, don't do this because of my knee, I'm not going to do it. You as trusted advisors should know that if something happens, you want them to come back to you and be the hero. And luckily, there's this thing called Luxsurance where we can help you do that. But anyway, so go on that.
You are a trip, really. Okay, so let's build on that word trust. I think it's an important word. Actually, Forrester had a great study called the trust imperative. And, this is an important thing that we're all seeing. And then we're also seeing a lot of rise in what's called localization, where more and more people want to shop locally. So let's start with you, Daniel. Let's go back to you. How do you build trust with signage?
Yeah, so for us, I think going back to dynamic signage, being able to change the messaging, make it more relevant, for us it's really empowering our customers to have the flexibility and eliminate friction so they can update their signage, right? So I think the onus is really on me and my team to continue to be creative, throw out ideas. We don't want anything we put in the public eye to become stale, right, and antiquated.
And I want to piggyback on that for a little, because I think also how stores could use their signage is also transparency, being clear, because like you mentioned, insurance, why not have a sign that said, did you get the insurance, protect your ring, like share the things that people struggle with and trying to find in the fine print. Don't bury that.
Yeah, and at the same time too, none of us want to be sleazy salespeople, right? So there's ways with digital signage to have a playlist with multiple things, right? Something's more lifestyle content, something might be upselling, cross-selling something else, but if you do it in the right manner, your customers feel like it's more educational in nature than you trying to shove something down their throat, so to speak.
And I think it's also to look at your retail space and evolve and change. You know, the lobby of a hotel, like the signages that they do, it's like a piece of art in your store, and it works as an attraction. I just read an article about how Hilton hotels, the third thing that they look at when they look at properties now, and I'm saying this as a 50-year-old man, is a good place for them to take a selfie. It's the truth. In their hotel, when they come to their hotel, they want to have a great place to take their selfie. It's just think about that. So if you think about how much they spend on their experience, and your store having incredible signage, incredible arts, offer extra experiences that you can give, and tools and technology to use that, it's just thinking, I hate to say this, outside the box for inside your box.
Next thing they're going to be doing is finding little animation points for TikTok. So
one thing if I can chime in really quick too, don't overthink what is sociable, like social sharing. You know, you could have something as simple as a small little digital plate that someone can put their ring or necklace on, and that they can videotape and share it on social, right? So a lot of people think it needs to be an entire digital wall or some huge experience. There's ways for us to really make miniature things that are impactful and powerful, and so just keep that in mind. People share things that are, you know, that are cool, that are incredible, and they don't have to be grandiose in scale.
Great. Andy, how do stores build better trust and experiences through new technologies?
Yeah. So, I mean, brick and mortar's been around for a long time, right? I'm sure back in Rome, there's a brick and mortar store, a guy with a nice ledger of all of his best clients, people coming in from the Silk Road to give him his product. He probably did really well, right? Maybe he ended up growing and having a great chain of stores. Okay, but that was 2,000 plus years ago. Now we're here, 2021, looking at 2022, how can we grow the next set? And I think the most important thing is to remove all friction points. At any point within the experience where there's friction, that needs to be alleviated. You at least need to have a thought of a solution to the problem so that if a customer does mention, hey, I don't really like this part of it, you can say, something's coming in 3 months that's actually going to fix that. Maybe they'll come back in 3 months and see what you're talking about. One example would be if you're at the point of sale and look up the wrong person, and then you're filling out their information and taking their credit card, and now it's added to the wrong account. You know, what sort of things can you do to make sure you're always looking up the right person when you're at that point? Or at the very beginning, someone didn't smile at them because they're working with another customer. I mean, how can you make sure that someone's always at the door? Because if someone walks in, looks around a little bit, gets a little sticker shock and walks out, who even knows what they were looking to buy? You never even got the chance to talk to them, and you miss every shot you don't take. So I think it's extremely important to think about it that way.
I applaud you for coming here and seeing a training in between all the incredible things and stuff that you have on your list to do. And all I can tell you is I'm 50-year-old, and I'm proud to say I'm a learn-it-all. I'm not a know-it-all. I used to be a know-it-all, and now I'm a learn-it-all. And the truth of the matter is this. A lot of the people at your store are know-it-alls. And if you don't give them the tools to become learn-it-alls, to improve on their craft, to improve on their professionalism, that's what you have to do as a store owner, and that's the culture. I truly, truly believe that. And I will say this much, with Luxsurance, we have 1-minute training videos. 1 minute. Because if I do a presentation for 20 minutes, it's just too long. They can't retain it. But a 1-minute piece. So take your team, on a situation that happens on the sales floor that didn't go great and have a 5-minute huddle. And just talk transparency there. They're gonna learn more in that 5-minute huddle than the breakfast that was shipped in for the 8:30 meeting that nobody wants to be at. In that 5-minute huddle, as a team, you will grow. And that's what I would throw at you.
Yeah, that's what we were doing Friday night. So we were out here Friday showing our stuff to customers. You know, there's always room for improvement. We had dinner, we talked about it. I was up a little late Friday night getting a new build together and making sure that on Saturday, anything that had been a problem on Friday was sort of already solved. I mean, every day you need to be thinking about the next innovation, which as a software engineer, there's always bugs, always everything in our products, but you always have to be fixing them, always growing.
Yeah, and I think a quick segue to what Stephen was saying as well. Think about which people in your store or your associates, your employees, like technology. Because for digital solutions, we have account managers that can handle things remotely, but you might find out that someone you work with actually has a minor in graphic design. And not only can they handle changing your content, but they're actually passionate about it. And we come across it all the time where people in retail stores ends up wanting to have some influence into what these solutions look like. And so just keep that in mind, you know, who you work with, who's more artsy, who's more creative. Bring them into kind of the visual solution and let them have some influence.
So actually, actually taking someone and improving from within and blooming and blossoming, that's very cool. That's very, very cool.
When he said the people who are passionate about tech, I just wanted to chime in. Please don't be ageist, whether with your staff or with your customers. You never know what 70-year-old walking into your store has worked in tech his entire life or her entire life. So, one of our best people at our first store that we were in has to be at least 68 or so. He went in and added every single one of his customers to the wish list app first. He was the one adding people and adding new items each day. And I would never have predicted that, and I'm so glad that I didn't. When he first talked to me about it, I could see some passion, but I thought maybe he was just being nice. And I'm so glad that I didn't say, you're old, there's no way you'll be the one using the app. So definitely don't be ageist.
And I also want to build on one of the points that you made, Daniel, earlier, which was, you know, it doesn't have to be complicated. In-store Wi-Fi has been around for a really long time, and, you know, trusted advisor. So I love when I hear stories of stores pulling out the iPad and going, yes, let's go to Blue Nile. Let's look at that together. You know, there's that comfort and lack of fear and knowing, and that's what people come in because they trust you. But that right there is a good customer experience. Someone will leave there and go, I love this. They pulled out the iPad, they pulled up Blue Nile, because honestly, when they're walking around your store, that's probably what they're doing anyway. So encourage it, bring it in. So it's a simple build on trust, and it's a, you know, small retail innovation that everyone can do and definitely should be doing.
Yeah, and we're all entrepreneurs up here. I always say, don't be afraid to be an early adopter. Yeah. We see people all the time where their stores are investing in, you know, their digital brand, so to speak, and they reap the benefits.
You know, I'll tell you, one of the biggest challenges that we had when we moved from bridal to fashion jewelry was selling fashion jewelry, because we were so used to going over the counter with bridal. So we actually started to do a twofer. So two people are going to sell one customer. One's going to be on the other side, and they're going to lead. And if you actually watch stylists, and I don't know, my wife's, I don't think she's here, so I can tell. I watch Real House of the Beverly Hills and all that, and they all have stylists and stuff like that. And there's always two of them, and they're styling their outfits. You can't do it across the counter. There's a wall, literally. So get on the other side. Be polite. The default always, if I'm going to throw one thing at you to go home with, always be polite. When you're talking to someone, I'm just going to put this necklace around your neck. Do you mind if I fasten the clasp? May I please have? The default of politeness goes for miles in the experience. And I go back to that, I hate to say it, being rad, reliable, accountable, and dependable. If your trusted advisor doesn't do that, let's talk about it to make it happen. Because in the end, it's your experience. It's your name on the store. They're going to be saying, you got to go to Jennifer Jewelers. And we've spent all this money on a sign, and we've got Luxsurance with a digital vault that we give our customers, and we have a wish list, and we've done all this. Amazing. But if your salespeople and your team aren't doing it, and it's up to you to hold them accountable, what's the point of it all?
Great. So I have questions, but let's see if anyone out there has questions. So,
all right. So a lot of the older generations, sorry guys, don't really know how to use, some of the latest and greatest technology. So I guess my question would be, how do you balance not only having the latest and greatest technology, but also keeping a little bit of the more classic elements like brochures and that kind of thing, so that we're not giving an IT lesson to every person who walks in the room? What elements do you bring in for the new technology, and what elements do you kind of keep the same to bring in that consistency and some of that traditional classic shopping experience?
Simplicity. It's all about simplicity. Everything that you design, think of the best possible solution, then think of the seamless solution, the one that doesn't even have to be thought about. If you can do that for your user experience, that's the ticket. I mean, nothing should require a manual, nothing should require training. Everything does if it gets too complicated, of course, but I think that's the trick, is to make it so easy that they don't need the training. And if the product that you're trying to use requires that too much, what are they really offering you?
Keep it simple, smart. KISS. Keep it simple, smart. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And I can tell you, when we created this digital vault, and the whole dream of somebody would get a digital vault and have all their jewelry in their phone, and it's so amazing. And I came with the idea, and everyone's like, cool. Can people use it? How are you going to give it to them? How are they going to do it? How are they going to get on their phone? How are you going to do it? And I was like, why did I come up with this idea? I hate this idea. This is a stupid idea. It was so stupid. But then I figured out simplify, integrate with the POS system, so that when someone buys it, they get a text message, and all of a sudden, boom, there's an app in their phone. Boom, they're insured. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And also be realistic to the fact that your team wants the technology, but you have to give them the tools to be able to integrate that technology. So if it's the 1-minute trainings, if it's the role play, if it's the 5-minute huddle, and work on it together and hold each other rad and accountable, you'll do that, and it'll be success. And also recognize the fact that people are going to make mistakes, and that's okay, because in the end, we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, evaluate and evolve. Too many companies we work with think you have to invest in all the digital up front. And you can't just take your brand story and that customer experience and just completely throw it on its head, right? So, invest in your storefront first. See what works. See how that plays in your story. Now do something inside the store. We're doing that with Neiman Marcus, for instance, who has a very, their customer base, right, is older than younger. They're trying not to infuse too much technology to alienate their customer base.
So I want to thank you all for joining us today. Retail innovation, improving the in-store experience. Enjoy the rest of JCK.
If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. It's full of our expertise and tips on diamonds, gemstones, and jewelry, growing your top line revenue, and business strategy. Just click on the link, subscribe, and hit the bell button so that you'll be notified of our next videos, and give us a like. Bye for now.